Good evening. Our top story this week. Russian lawmakers pass a ban on international adoptions to the United States this week, with the USA claiming that it was due to Obama's signing of a bill that would provide sanctions against Russian officials deemed as human rights violators. Russian President Vladimir Putin signs the bill into law, which the U.S. Department of State regrets because it will cause thousands of Russian babies to be forced to grow up in orphanages and institutional settings, thus forcing desperate to adopt American couples to look elsewhere for their babies in places such as Africa. Meanwhile, the media is taken off with all the sob stories about the families who will never be, since there are no more Russian babies available for you, although one Utah couple manages to beat the deadline and brings their kid home to the U.S. just in the nick of time to avoid the ban. And in the case which started this whole mess, the Russian boy who went back alone on a plane a couple of years ago is thriving in his new foster home in Russia. In Arizona, where the child welfare system is in crisis, partially due to an overwhelming number of child snatchings and a desperate shortage of homes to place these kids, a group of wannabe foster parents is fighting to get the right to get their cut of the pie after being blocked for refusing to vaccinate their own kids. In Florida, the child protective industry generously lets some of their foster kids visit their families for the holiday, then puts them right back into foster care right after. And New York City is looking for new ways to make their dangerous foster care system safer. In Washington this week, in light of an $11 million child abuse settlement, the child protective industry is trying to figure out how to avoid any more multi-million-dollar lawsuits against the child welfare system, when all they really need to do is protect their foster kids from abuse or neglect while in care. Childhood obesity rates drop in several major U.S. cities, especially in the neighborhoods with the highest rates of poverty. Due to last week's shooting at a Connecticut school, psychiatrists are now admitting that psych meds cause kids to become violent, especially SSRIs, which are supposed to treat depression and other behavior disorders. And Connecticut judges can no longer send juvenile offenders to out-of-state facilities for punishment or treatment, but the child protective industry still can. Twitter shuts down several accounts which were sharing child pornography after anonymous members exposed them under a coordinated effort called Operation Pedo Hunt, and adoptive parents are fearing the worst as U.S. lawmakers debate what to do about the fiscal cliff because they would probably lose their adoption tax credit. In China this week, a new law requires adult kids to visit their parents or face being sued due to the country's difficulties in caring for their elderly. In India, a doctor gets busted after trying to sell a baby after the mother disappeared from the hospital, and it turns out that she had previously sold 4 babies since 2004, never forcing any parents to give up their kid, but only after the baby had been abandoned by the mother. In Canada, Aboriginal kids who were snatched up during the 60s scoop are trying to reconnect with their roots. In Australia, special needs students are being abused by being put into dangerous physical restraints while at school. In England, the government announces changes to their adoption rules which would make the process faster and more robust. A British father who was wrongfully jailed for child cruelty gets to spend his first Christmas with his daughter since 2007. British judges are afraid of being attacked by pissed-off people stuck in family court proceedings. And a mother wins an apology after British social workers falsely accuse her of making up a condition that made her disabled kids unable to walk and trying to snatch them away. In entertainment news this week, comedian Cat Williams is arrested for child endangerment after getting busted with drugs in the home right after the IRS issued a $4 million lien on his property. In Arizona, 2 kids are missing after running away from their group home. In Nevada, a man who was cleared in a child death case is suing the district attorney and child protection officials after he spent 2 years in jail, including months after his acquittal. In New York, a foster kid opens up one of her Christmas presents to find a teddy bear and a gun inside. And in Pennsylvania, an ex-caseworker is claiming that he was fired from his job due to his race, religion, and gender. In California, a former foster child is spending the holiday season searching for her siblings who she was separated from in foster care. In West Virginia, a couple is struggling to make ends meet with their foster kids. And finally, tonight in Kansas, a man who donated sperm to a couple is now being pursued by the state for child support after the mother received financial assistance for the kid. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK. Over and out.